Desiree's Dream. Chapter 16. Trip to the Fort of Lost Souls. One Friday afternoon, as the sun dipped towards the horizon, Alex arrived to collect Desi from school. Her eyes, sparkling with that familiar mischief, immediately revealed that she had something on her mind. "Alex," she began, a smile playing at the corners of her mouth, "I've been thinking. We need another adventure, something even more thrilling than our beach excursion." Alex knew that glint in her eye all too well. It usually meant trouble, but he played along anyway. "Oh. And what adventure could top our last outing, young lady?" Desi leaned in, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "The Fort of Lost Souls. That old, abandoned fort just outside the city. They say it's haunted." Alex's eyebrows shot up in surprise. The Fort of Lost Souls. That place was notorious, a place of dark legends and whispered tales, he said sternly. "That fort is said to be cursed. It's far too dangerous for someone like you." But Desi, undeterred, pouted playfully. "Scared of a few ghosts, Alex? I thought you were adventurous." "Of course, I'm not afraid," he huffed. "But we can't just go wandering into a haunted fort. It's reckless, not to mention unsafe." Desi's eyes, wide and pleading, fixed on him, pleaded, "Please, Alex. I'll be extra careful, I promise. We can take Beauregard for protection." "Beauregard, you have got to be kidding," Alex sighed, and could sense that Desi was getting irritated. Knowing that once Desi had set her heart on something, her mind was not changing. "Very well, Desi. We'll go to the fort. But mark my words, this won't be like our trip to the beach. We'll need to plan carefully." Desi's grin was instantaneous, and she clapped her hands together in delight. "Wonderful. We'll leave at dawn tomorrow. I'll pack us some food." "Hold on," Alex interrupted, holding up a hand. "Food won't be enough for this trip. We're talking about a cursed fort, Desi. We'll need weapons, and we must prepare for anything." Desi's eyes widened at the mention of weapons, but her enthusiasm didn't waver. And so, the following Saturday, Alex and Desi found themselves approaching the Fort of Lost Souls as the sun nested in the western sky. Though it was a 7-hour journey, the fort loomed large and ominous, its ruined walls casting eerie shadows in the evening light. Desi's excitement was palpable, but a hint of nervousness crept in as they drew nearer. The fort was in disrepair, its wooden walls crumbling and cloaked in ivy. A deadly silence hung over the place, and the air felt heavy, as if they were walking into a tomb. Sensing Desi's hesitation, Alex turned to her and said, "Are you sure about this? We can still turn back." Desi's heart was pounding, but she squared her shoulders and took a step forward. "Let's do it," she said firmly. "I want to explore this place, ghosts and all." They entered the fort, their weapons drawn. The interior was a labyrinth of splintered walls, shadowy corners, and hidden passages. The air grew colder as they ventured more profoundly, and an otherworldly chill crept down their spines. Desi jumped at every sound, her slingshot was clutched tightly in her hands. "You were right, Alex," she whispered, her voice trembling. "This place is terrifying." Desi jumped when Alex touched her shoulder, his voice little more than a breath. "Shh, stay close and keep your eyes open. We don't know what we might find." As they turned a corner, their eyes drawn to a figure standing in the shadows. It was little more than a wavering silhouette shrouded in smoke and mist. It stepped forward, its face hidden in the depths of a tattered hood. Desi edged closer to Alex, her heart pounding in her chest. The figure raised a gnarled hand, its voice like the sighing wind. "Who disturbs the peace of the Fort of Lost Souls?" Alex, his voice steady despite the nerves churning in his stomach, took a step forward. "We mean no harm. We are travelers seeking shelter for the night. The figure advanced, its eyes glowing with an unearthly light. Then you have made a grave mistake. This fort is cursed, and all who enter are doomed to a fate far worse than death. Desi's heart hammered, but she found her courage. We're not afraid of a curse. We'll take our chances. Alex will protect us. He is strong and brave. Alex looked at Desi with disgust and spoke firmly, "You speak for yourself, young lady." A low, raspy laugh escaped the figure, sending shivers down their spines. "Brave travelers, are you? Then enter, if you dare. But be warned, your souls may never leave this place." With that, the figure retreated into the shadows, leaving them alone in the eerie half-light of the fort. Desi and Alex exchanged glances, their eyes reflecting their excitement and trepidation. "Well," Desi said, her voice slightly shaking, "I guess we have done it now." Alex gave a small smile, his hand tightening on the hilt of his dagger. "It seems so. Let's hope we leave here with our souls still intact." Alex gave a hint of a smile, searching each room for a place to settle for the night. Beauregard sniffed the area and dug holes in different parts, as if he knew he might find something. Suddenly, Alex heard his name. Desi seemed excited, calling, "Alex, come quick, I found something." Alex followed the soft lilt of Desi's calls. She stood before a large door when he reached her. The air was heavy with anticipation as Desi grabbed Alex's hand, pulling him closer to the door, adorned with ancient symbols whose meaning had long been forgotten. Desi's steps were cautious, her eyes darting around as if expecting some unseen watcher to leap out at any moment. The door, in stark contrast to its aged surroundings, shone with an eerie newness, its brass knobs gleaming in the faint light lit by the pendulum around Desi's neck. Desi's hand reached out, her fingers curling around the cold metal of the handle. But before she could turn it, Alex's strong hand grasped her wrist, pulling her gently back. "Hold on, Desi," he whispered, his deep voice carrying a note of caution. "Are you sure you want to go in? Who knows what's waiting for us in there?" His light red hair fell across his eyes as he tilted his head, his expression a mixture of curiosity and concern. Desi hesitated, her gaze dropping to where Alex's hand still held her wrist. She gently pulled his hand free with a playful roll of her eyes. "Don't be silly, Alex," she scolded, her tone light and teasing. "You're not scared, are you?" With a determined smile, she reached for the handle again and twisted. A faint suction stirred the dust at their feet as the door creaked open, sending a small cloud swirling into the dark chamber beyond. Desi took an involuntary step back, her hand reaching out to grasp Alex's hand. Together, they peered into the darkness, their faces illuminated by a soft glow from the corridor. "Alex, you go first," Desi said, shaking slightly. With a dramatic flourish, Alex stepped back, his eyes sparkling with amusement. "Well, suffering catfish," he exclaimed. "You're the one who's always saying ladies first. Have you forgotten your own rules, Desi?" He grinned, a mischievous glint in his deep brown eyes. Desi's cheeks flushed, and she gave a sheepish grin in return. All right, she conceded. "Let's go in together." She squeezed Alex's hand, taking a deep breath as if steeling herself for what lay ahead. Their footsteps echoed in perfect harmony as they crossed the threshold, the cool stone floor meeting their soles with a satisfying firmness. Hand in hand, they stood still for a moment, enveloped by the encompassing darkness. It was like they had stepped into another realm, suspended in time. And then, as if the air they breathed willed it, the oil sticks along the walls ignited. A warm, golden glow filled the chamber, caressing the walls and revealing their hidden beauty. Desi's breath caught in her throat as her eyes adjusted to the soft light. Once shrouded in shadow, the walls were now alive with intricate carvings. Ancient symbols and designs danced in the flickering light, casting mysterious shadows that seemed to pulsate with hidden knowledge. The scent of aged stone and long-forgotten incense hung heavy in the air, whispering tales of dormant secrets within these walls. Alex, illuminated by the gentle glow, turned to Desi, his expression a mixture of childlike wonder and unspoken excitement. His eyes, wide with astonishment, reflected the dancing flames, and for a moment, he stood transfixed, drinking in the room's ethereal beauty. The ancient hall resonated with whispers of the past as Desi and Alex ambled among the intricate carvings adorning the walls. Each stroke of the brush had captured a moment frozen in time, and as their fingers trailed along the etchings, the stories awakened. The dimly lit chamber, with its musty scent and echoes of footsteps long gone, provided the perfect canvas for their imaginations. Desi's gaze darted from one panel to the next, her heart racing with each discovery. Standing by her side, Alex mirrored her movements, their shoulders brushing as they moved in unison. Together, they embarked on a silent journey through the lives of the figures etched onto the stone. Warriors brandishing swords, lovers embracing under starlit skies, and mysterious figures shrouded in robes standing on a platform searching the landscape for a hidden sign. Alex and Desi, hand in hand, studying the carving that had captured their attention, feeling that the etching was meant for them. But it was one particular carving that halted their exploration. It depicted two adventurers, their faces determined, gazing upon a map unfurled before them. The map, a labyrinth of lines and symbols, promised secrets and treasures beyond imagination. Alex, his breath catching in his throat, turned to Desi, the firelight casting a warm glow on her features. Her eyes, now fixed on the carving, sparkled with the reflections of burning embers, mirroring the passion of the adventurers in the stone. At that moment, as their eyes met, the room around them faded, and they stood not as observers but as participants in the story. The map on the wall seemed to pulse with a life of its own, beckoning them to embark on a journey of love and desire, where the treasures awaited not in gold and gems, but in the depths of their shared experiences. Then, snapping out of his reverie, Alex approached Desi, his gaze fixed on the pendant on her chest. "Look, Desi, the pendulum," Alex said, his voice laced with awe. Desi's hand went to the jewelry. She pulled it off her neck and let it dangle from her fingers. The pendant shone with an otherworldly light, its gold surface reflecting the warm glow of the oil sticks. "Well, I'll be," Alex whispered, his voice hoarse with surprise. Desi had a strange feeling come over her as she loosened her grip on the pendulum, and it slipped from her fingers, falling back into the darkness. A cold chill ran through the room as if the very air had been sucked out. "Stay still, Desi, I have some matches," Alex said, his voice tight with concern. The faint strike of a match broke the stillness, and the small flame cast eerie shadows on the walls, transforming the chamber into its familiar, musty state. Desi and Alex, their eyes adjusting to the dim light, glanced at each other, their faces mirrors of shared awe. The pendulum, however, was nowhere to be found. Desi, her heart still racing, slowly reached for Alex's hand, her eyes filled with unanswered questions. "What just happened, Alex? Are we dreaming?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "I don't know. It is as if the pendulum found its way home, and you were its carrier." Without a word, Alex turned, his hand still clasped with Desi's, and together, they stepped back across the threshold, leaving the chamber and its mysteries behind. The weight of the unknown pressed upon them, and yet, they felt an inexplicable pull, a silent beckoning that something magical and unexplainable had just occurred. As they emerged, their faithful companion, Beauregard, greeted them with a wagging tail and a mysterious object clamped between his teeth. Desi, ever so gently, petted his head, her fingers finding the familiar feel of parchment. "What do you have here, my friend?" she asked, carefully retrieving a leather roll. As she unrolled it, her eyes widened, and she met Alex's gaze. "It's a map," she said, her voice steady but her heart racing with anticipation. "What secrets did this map hold?" Where would it lead them? These questions hung in the air as they stood on the threshold of yet another adventure, their eyes shining with a mixture of trepidation and excitement. The fort lay quiet as Desi, exhausted from the day's adventures, tried to settle herself to sleep. The soft leaves beneath her body offered little comfort as her eyes darted nervously in the darkness, her breath coming in quick, gasping breaths. Finally, her eyes rolled, her lids closed, and her breathing slowed and steadied. Alex, ever watchful, lifted his head at the slightest sound, his keen eyes adjusting to the dim light. He rose, a silent shadow, and placed a finger to his lips, shushing Beauregard, who had lifted his head in curiosity. With one last glance at the sleeping Desi, Alex stepped quietly through the fort, the moonlight casting long shadows as he made his way to the front gate. He glanced back, his eyes scanning the darkness for any sign of movement, any hint that Desi was following. As he neared the tree line, a flickering light caught his attention. Stepping out from the shadows, he faced a campfire where 3 figures stood, their faces hidden by masks. Their weapons drawn, but they lowered them at the sight of Alex. "Hold it, boys," Alex said, his voice calm. "It's just me." The 3 men relaxed, their tense bodies slumping as they sat on a large log by the fire. Alex approached and sat on a nearby rock, the firelight dancing in his eyes. He reached into his trousers and produced 3 shiny gold coins, which he handed to the men. "You guys did great," he said, his voice laced with admiration. "You almost convinced me of your ghostly charades." Desi was certainly persuaded. "I like the way you made up the mysterious room." The men looked at Alex, wondering what his words meant. What room was he talking about? Each man took a coin, their hands rough and calloused, and they nodded their thanks. Alex shook each man's hand, his grip firm, and then he left, his footsteps quick and purposeful as he returned to the fort. As he entered, a scream pierced the night, sending a chill down his spine. Alex's heart hammered in his chest as he raced towards the source of the sound, his mind racing with worry. Bursting into the small room, he found Desi, her eyes wide, sitting up and hugging Beauregard close. At the sight of Alex, her expression shifted from one of relief to annoyance. "Where were you?" she demanded, her voice shaking. "I woke up, and you weren't here." Alex, thinking quickly, panted, "I had to go to the outhouse." Desi's eyes widened, and she giggled, the sound tinged with nerves. "The outhouse," she repeated, her tears drying as she shook his head. And so, their adventure in the Fort of Fallen Souls continued, a journey that would challenge them both, especially Desi, in ways they could never have anticipated.